Twitter Thoughts for You by Zvi July 14, 2026. I previously have written back in March 2022 about how I use Twitter, and back in April 2023 about Twitter and its then new algorithms, which have changed again. This post will update how I use Twitter now in 2026 and provide updates on the current state of the new algorithm, the situation with links, with the API, and some thoughts about using Twitter to make money, which you almost never should try to do. Previously, I said you need 4 things to use Twitter well. 1. TweetDeck or another similar alternative application. 2. Knowing who to follow and read. 3. Lists. 4. Unfollows, filters, mutes, and blocks. That hasn't changed. Lists have become even more important. This post is coming out now, however, because the For You feed is perhaps making a comeback. Except where stated here, the advice in my 2022 post still applies. Defend your feed via at least one list. Twitter now has 3 feeds other than lists. You can have the horrid For You experience, or you can have the following sort by popular experience, or you can have an actual chronological following sort by recent. But you now need to click on that second part manually. That is rather hostile for those who want chronological feeds. So I've been forced to migrate to entirely using lists. I do see the appeal of the middle path of algorithmic feed, but only people I explicitly follow. If you are following more people than the number of tweets you can consume and aren't monitoring situations in real time. That seems reasonable for those who are not Twitter completionists and want to drink from a curated but oversized fire hose. Previously, I would use multiple lists for different topics. I had my followers. I had 2 lists for rationalists and AI that I would check consistently, then lists for economics, politics, sports, and so on that I would check when there was a situation to monitor. This shielded me from context shifting. I would think about AI in a block. As AI has become ubiquitous throughout everything, keeping distinct lists mostly stopped being worth the trouble. So now I have an all list, which I created via my Chrome extension porting everything over. The all list combines the previous AI, rationalist, and following lists, and is everyone I want to always see. I am committed to reliably seeing all of it. I do still have a few other lists, but they are not well maintained, and if the situation came up, I would need to curate them again. I'm sure I will have to do that in 2028 for the politics list. Block early, block often, know your triggers. Blocking used to be a big step, since the person would be unable to see your posts. Now that blocking does not do that, I block at the drop of a variety of specific hats, including being an asshole if someone has not previously demonstrated value. One of those rules is AI slop. If you are going to give me AI text, or what might as well be AI text, it needs to be interesting, or you're gone. What I do my best to avoid is blocking mainly for having opposing viewpoints on topics I care about, even if done relatively obnoxiously. I need to avoid getting a distorted view of the landscape. Lists change what following means. I no longer look at the list of tweets from my followers at all. If I follow someone new and I want to actually see their tweets, I will also add them to the all list. For that purpose, I still use the old rule. Look at the history of their posts and assess the average quality or net value provided, per Twitter thread. The list of things to watch out for also aged well. 1. Lots of stuff you don't care about. 2. Self-promotion. 3. Spam. 4. Spoilers. 5. Not safe for work. 6. Misinformation. 7. Politics, especially political advocacy. 8. Just not that great. 9. Getting old fast. 10. Cancel bait. You can overcome some amount of those, but you need to provide a lot of value. For focused lists, you also want to ensure the person is focused mostly on the topic of the list, or would be when you have a situation to monitor. This frees me to use following for all its other purposes. Again, following is a package of 6 things. 1. People can see that you follow them. 2. They can DM you even if your DMs are closed, and perhaps you can DM them. 3. The posts you want from them appear in your feed. 4. The posts you don't want from them also appear in your feed. 5. You see interactions between people if and only if you follow all of them. 6. If they're locked, it's the only way to see anything at all. We can add a 7th thing, which is that you can use your following list as a reference to find those accounts. If there is no feed, that knocks out number 3 and number 4, and my DMs are open, so mostly that knocks out number 2. So if I follow an unlocked account, it means some combination of, I want to see you within interactions, and I want to communicate that I am following you within the social game of Twitter. That lets me, in theory, be a lot more liberal with who I follow, but for now I've instead chosen to be only modestly less selective, with only approximately 300 follows. I think I want to ideally be in the approximately 500 range. It wasn't for you. Back in February, Stray noted a big shift in how much the For You page includes people you follow. Twitter used to claim in 2023 that this number was approximately 50%.
Jonathan Stray. I found a simple prompt for Claude Cowork that used my browser to figure out the percentage of posts in my For You feed that come from people I follow. This turned out to be 16%. I convinced 2 other people to try it, and they got 5% and 11%. Try it yourself and leave a comment below.
I got 27% in April despite having under 300 follows based on an experiment at the time, but I am very precise with my engagements. For me, 27% is not that high, and the algorithm had already been adjusted in between by the release of Phoenix around April 1. The old systems looked at the engagements of people you follow, along with grouping people into communities by interest areas. That's the kind of perverse hidden system you need to be optimizing for. You'd want to primarily choose followers who engage in good ways, whereas the new code looks directly at which users engage with a post to predict probability of your engagement. I notice that all these systems are trying to predict whether you will engage rather than whether you will find value. This is a terrible proxy target and forces you, if you want to use any algorithmic feeds, to choose interactions on the basis of them being training data. Don't like anything you don't want to approve for what is essentially RLHF. It's for you. There is an exciting development in Twitter's For You page recently. Did they fix it? Can all of your friends come back now? I, and by I mean Sewell, re-ran the experiment on my For You page today. People I follow were now 37% of the first 300 items in the feed, up from 27%. That's starting to be in a good place, given there are a bunch of people in the feed that I should be following under the new regime, but wasn't yet. Overall, the feed looks like a vast improvement, and the acclaim seems universal. There is also improvement in the sorting of reply threads.
Nikita Beer, Twitter Head of Product. We're rolling out a small tweak to boost visibility of your posts to your mutuals, people who you follow back. We noticed this data was missing from the algo and it made your friends appear less in your replies. This resulted in the reply section feeling more like a battleground with people you don't recognize. This should also help clusters form around interests more easily, which many people have asked for.
Image. A hand points to a switch labeled Fixed, positioned over a setting labeled Broken. The caption jokes, perhaps if we switched it from broken to fixed.
QC. Did he actually do it? Did he restore SIM clusters? Can we bring the golden age back?
Jack. Are SIM clusters back? Okay, now I'm going to be a bit contrarian and say that while I love my mutuals, I don't want to see only posts from them, which is what's happening RN. Having a bit of a mix between explore/exploit is genuinely good. One day the algo will consistently remember that I like having a bit of high-quality furry art, mixed in with posts from people I follow, and high-signal posts from elsewhere. Sometimes it gets close, but it always seems overtuned one way or another.
Thebes. We're so back.
Spore. My own feed is suddenly feeling the most approximately mutual. Approximately it has felt in like over a year, I swear. It's as if the fog has lifted, and I am discovering you all again, anew. Welcome back, everyone.
Romy. My feed is suddenly 90% PPL I follow, and it feels like walking into a party where I know everyone. One time I went to the Venice Beach boardwalk and saw a guy eating glass for tips and another guy with a two-headed turtle in a bucket that he was charging $5 for people to look at. Anyway, previously my feed felt more like that.
Daniel, lobster too buttery, etc. But literally every tweet on my For You Now is a mutual, like what's even happening on the larger website.
Powai math. I'm having the same experience. It almost makes me want to follow some more normie news accounts because my entire feed is finally filled with my favorite weirdos.
Sonia serendipitously. Yeah, I would prefer like 90/10 instead of 100% mutuals.
Daniel, yeah, give me a few site-wide bangers that have topic similarity to my liked posts.
I definitely am nothing close to 100% mutuals or even 100% follows. I wonder if increasing my followed count would change this. Daniel follows over 4,000 people, Sonia over 2,000, which makes being a completionist prohibitive. I now think that if you are fine not being a completionist and you have strong discipline in what you engage with, the current For You feed is playable. In terms of value per tweet, if consumption is light, it plausibly exceeds the value of my all list. The problem is that if you are trying to be a completionist, the For You page does not allow that. And if you combine it with a list, then you're going through a lot of duplicates. So ultimately, I don't think it makes the cut for me, even if it stays good. The previous time, Twitter transformed its algorithm again. Then again, maybe it didn't, not much. Has Grok been running Twitter's algorithm as of January? Not exactly. It is by reports using a transformer architecture. They said they would open source the algorithm. And to some extent at least they did do that. It's grim out there. I don't know the extent to which this section still holds. It could change at any time. But the thing is, a lot of the values reported here as of January were still the same as they were in 2023. Both of these seem to reflect only the old system.
Bark, January 20th, 2026. I read the code so you don't have to. Here's the breakdown. 1. Reply to your comments. The algo weighs reply plus author response 75x higher than a like. Ghosting comments equals strangling reach. 2. Links kill visibility. Put them in bio or pinned, never in the post. 3. Watch time is king. If they scroll past, you lose. Video/threads win because they stop the scroll. 4. Stay in your lane. SIM clusters are real. If you drift out of your niche, crypto, tech, etc., you get zero distribution. 5. Blocks/mutes nuke your score. Be polarizing, but don't be annoying. TLDR. Talk to your audience, build relationships, keep people on the app. It's actually very simple.
ATMK. The only things you need to know: every account has a base score that's applied before a tweet is evaluated. Verified accounts, plus 100 automatically. Unverified accounts, up to plus 55. That base score is then multiplied by your follower-to-following ratio, only meaningful if it's very poor. Your restriction status. There are no manual engineering rules anymore. Grok fully determines the algorithm. Your post lives or dies in the first 30 minutes, driven entirely by velocity, 0 to 5 minutes. Shown to approximately 5 to 10% of followers, plus a small out-of-network sample. 5 to 15 minutes. If engagement is strong, shown to 20 to 30% of followers and a larger OON audience. 15 to 30 minutes. If performance holds, the post enters For You feeds at scale. Older posts don't get a second chance. They're trimmed out and replaced by newer posts with stronger velocity signals. Engagement weights. Author engaged reply plus 75. Reply plus 13.5. Profile click plus 12. Repost plus 1.0. Like plus 0.5. Report minus 369. Instant death. Video performance is negligible. Even 50% completion is only plus 0.005. There is no relevance ranking between posts. The score is the score. It doesn't adjust based on what's trending or what else is in the feed.
Reposts being only +1 still seems utterly insane to me, the same as it did in 2023, as did the +75 on replying to comments. A repost should be a vastly stronger signal than almost anything else, no? Or perhaps they're thinking the direct repost impact is already enough on its own. Engaging with all your replies is the most obvious thing to do. So, always engage? I tried that for a while back in 2023. It is helpful if you are at small scale, but feels like it gets drowned out at large scale. Here's another analysis with some other basic findings. Spread your tweets out over time. Don't post old content or duplicates.
Image. Posts that are too old, duplicated, already seen, from blocked or muted accounts, containing muted words, or failing safety checks are removed before ranking. A machine learning model then predicts 19 types of engagement from a user's history and post features, combining positive and negative signals into a score. Additional posts from the same author receive steep score reductions, about 55% for a second post, about 32% for a third, and approaching a 10% floor for later posts. Posts from accounts a user does not follow are also penalized before the highest-ranked posts are selected for the For You feed. Image, replies, retweets, quotes, and follows are positive signals with high impact on post ranking. Likes, dwell time, profile clicks, shares or direct messages, and sufficiently long video views have medium positive impact. Not interested has high negative impact. Mutes and blocks have very high negative impact, and reports have extreme negative impact. Repeated posts from the same author receive an exponentially decaying penalty, while posts shown outside a user's network get a score multiplier below 1.
How well is the new algorithm working? Reports are that it isn't great.
Neurotica. I am genuinely amazed how bad Nikita fucked this place up. I've lost the urge to scroll. Wild. Neurotica. Follow up. Timeline was neutral this morning. Saw maybe 1 or 2 penguin posts. Liked the actual pic when I saw it. Feed instantly became 80% penguin posting. It's so unstable, lol.
Here is another analysis from Jonathan Stray of the April version. They definitely are doing some new things, including being way more responsive to engagement, but the core looks like it is largely the same as always. Twitter still hates links, and that's terrible. They claim links are no longer deboosted, but no one actually believes this in practice. It might or might not now be nominally true, but they functionally, severely punish posts where people actually click on the link. Do I still spend a lot of time on Twitter? Yes, because there are no good alternatives and it's impossible to do my job without it. And if you spend enough time on list cultivation and doing good blocks, you can get something reasonable. But yeah, Twitter is way, way worse than it could be, and the trend is downwards. Twitter also introducing a 20-cent fee in its API for tweets with a link in them. There is no way to read that other than as a F-ratio, even if such tweets are not otherwise explicitly downweighted.
Nikita Beer, Twitter head of product. Links are not deboosted. We fixed that issue last year. Nikita Beer. We're testing a new link experience starting on iOS to make it easier for your followers to engage with your post while browsing links. For creators, a common complaint is that posts with links tend to get lower reach. This is because the web browser covers the post and people forget to like or reply, so the 10th doesn't get a clear signal whether the content is any good. To help get better signal, posts will now collapse to the bottom of the page so people can react while you're reading. As always, remember, the post should stand alone as great content, so write a solid caption.
Nate Silver. That isn't really what the tweet yourself quoting says. It says it's hard to establish the quality signal associated with a link, and so each tweet should stand alone, and also the platform design makes it hard to engage with such tweets. Maybe fix that? It seems e.g. like lots of people clicking on a link would be an unambiguous signal of engagement. It's off-platform engagement, and you guys have the right to deprioritize that. But that's what Facebook did, and it made them literally completely irrelevant to the news convo. Nate Silver.
These are the Twitter/X accounts with the most engagement so far in 2026. I suppose I had some intuition for how bad it was, but geez, this is what you get when the ecosystem is broken.
Image. Elon Musk's account had the most engagement in 2026, at about 251 million, followed by Eric Dougherty at 109 million, Gunther Eagleman at 95 million, and Popbase at 79 million. Most of the largest accounts shown are right-leaning. Prominent left-leaning accounts include Brian Allen at 32 million, Mehdi Hassan at 18 million, and Ed Krasenstein at 16 million.
Justin Wolfers. It is utterly dispiriting how few of these bubbles are reliable sources of information.
Nikita Beer, Twitter head of product. Data isn't accurate, missing half the network.
Nate Silver, it's not my data. The source is Cluvio, which is linked to in the article. I'd link to it in this tweet, but ironically, that would kill engagement. And I know that traffic is hard to count, especially for a private company, but if you have more accurate data, then publish it. Do you think that X is facilitating high-quality information? If you suppress external links and there's no real quality signal other than engagement, and people aren't even getting so the accounts they follow so much as the algo, it seems like this is about where you'd end up. The NYT published a link to critical original reporting on Iran 45 minutes ago. A good, fair story. They have 53 million followers. The engagement metrics you display say they got 94 likes and 33 retweets out of that. Is that accurate? And if so, shouldn't you work on a better algo?
Nikita Beer, Twitter head of product. It's paywalled. If only 0.1% of users can derive value from the content, it will organically rank lower.
Alan Cole. Dumb. The value of the link is in backing up the claim. The claim can often be backed up from a NYT/WSJ/Bloomberg headline alone. But it's also a signal you're willing to let the many power users who do have subscriptions investigate the story further. Dumb. Do you know how I know users value NYT/WSJ/Bloomberg? Because the engagement maxing accounts, I'm not a fan, but they know what works on here, still cite them for credibility. But you have trained them to not provide the link because they know that harms their engagement. What you've taught them to do is say, I promise, really, I read good news sources, you know the ones, and here's what they say. However, I don't want to be thrown into the gulag by Nikita, so please just accept my word for it that a link exists. Dumb.
1 in 12 American households has a NYT subscription, as do, presumably, a much higher percentage of followers of the NYT account. Yet approximately none of their followers are being shown the content, and Beer doubled down on essentially they should be figuring out how to optimize for engagement, rather than offering a news service that allows people to choose when to access the news, so it's on them.
Nate Silver. There's nothing organic about it. It's deliberate choices you and the team are making, and although those choices may have been defensible in the abstract, they're clearly resulting in the low-quality content rising to the top. You're a smart dude. You can build a better algo.
Nikita Beer, Twitter head of product. Can you stop quote tweeting without the context? It's intellectually dishonest.
Elon Musk. Nate is a huge retard.
Stephen, can you stop using my product according to the way it's designed? It breeds dishonesty.
Bucko Capital. Bloke. The algorithm destroyed the reach of replies, so why would he respond to you that way? Can't be mad at people responding to the incentives of the system.
Nate Silver. In what sense is it intellectually dishonest, Nikita? The context is clear. My thesis is, I think your algo surfaces too little quality, and I think your excuses in these back-and-forth exchanges have been validating of that. To your credit, it's clear enough you agree with me.
Elon Musk. It's surfacing you to me right now, which is evidence for your argument.
Mike Solana. Seems true that quality has degraded across the social internet, which is partly a structural issue, but it's also true that huge media brands like the NYT are just really bad at social. When they aren't boosted, they fail. They have the resources, they should adapt. For example, given we know links are deboosted, this is denied, but like, come on LOL. Why is the NYT posting a link to a paywalled article and calling it a day? Yes, links are great, but we are also all free to produce native content.
Philippe Lemoine ran a little test and believes that while links were throttled around 2023 and then completely nuked, this reversed in spring/summer of 2025. Such posts still do poorly because the system measures things that de facto throttle links anyway, but you no longer pay an additional hard-coded penalty on top of that, and posts with links now do occasionally go fully viral. Nate Silver then gave us a more considered analysis, the centerpiece of which is that engagement is a dumb metric. I think he's hit on the central points that matter. As Nate says, a lot of the individual changes to the Twitter algorithm have been good or at least locally defensible. In many cases, I have been impressed. But the big picture decisions are the ones that matter most. What are the incentives? Do they favor quality content or do they favor slop? In what ways? Twitter heavily tries to force users into the For You algorithm and heavily rewards active engagement in the form of replies. The combination of these means that to go viral, you need to provoke a bunch of people into responding. I've hit upon the magic formula a few times, and it always involves being at least a little bit toxic, leaving room for people to tell you that you are wrong in some way or express their strong opinion. A lot of great content, including my blog posts, simply doesn't do that. People don't even like my long posts there. In all seriousness, if you're on Twitter and you'd like to help me raise my visibility, shoot off replies to my articles there, as it has an outsized effect. Ideally make them thoughtful ones. Surely something came to mind at some point. If you combine that with throttling links for years and even now using metrics that effectively still do it, if you leave the site to read the link, the post is punished, even if it's long-term good for Twitter, and basically not caring about who is following who and the way people respond on the margin, you end up with a giant pile of slop. Even if it's not technically written by AI, it might as well have been. Nate notes that the biggest changes to Twitter for the worse came exactly with the changes to the algorithmic feed in March 2016, predating Elon Musk's takeover, and he notes it may have been one of the forces driving groupthink and wokeness into overdrive around that time. If we want to keep everyone on an algorithmic feed while solving or at least mitigating the slop problem, there are various ways to move in that direction. The most obvious is to give more priority to people you follow and to accounts where you've otherwise indicated interest. Next up would be, how about we stop maximizing for active engagement and start optimizing for positive engagement? Grok exists. Grok can scan every reply or quote tweet and ask whether it indicates the person is happy that the OP exists or if they are sad. It should be very good at that. If you're getting negative engagement, I am sorry, but that is actually bad, not good. Penalize it, or at least reward it a lot less. A third idea would be to actually train a slop or engagement bait classifier. This is not as difficult as it sounds. I am confident that those creating tests for AI-written text could also identify slopalicious text using the same principles. A full solution involves reimagining what you are aiming for and realizing you want to be the front page of someone's internet, their central hub, and providing value to keep them coming back. And that if someone wants New York Times articles in their feed, it should be obvious that you should provide that. Twitter turns its API back on. Twitter finally lets you pay per message or action for the API as of February.
Developers, officially launching X API pay-per-use. The core of X developers are indie builders, early-stage products, startups, and hobbyists. It's time to open up our X API ecosystem and instill a new wave of next-generation X apps. We're so back.
The only reason it was previously so over was Elon Musk chose to make it over. Glad we're back, although I notice I wouldn't trust this ability to stick around. The cost structure they started with was bizarre. They let you send a DM for $0.015 or create a post for $0.015 so you can spam and have your AI post on the cheap. However, if you want to read tweets at scale, At the time, that costs you $0.005 per tweet. And if you search it is 5 cents flat fee plus the $0.005. $1 lets my AI read 200 tweets, which in theory is playable, but then they threw in a 20 cents fee per tweet with a link, which is an absurdly prohibitive level of taxation. Don't tell me they're not throttling links, and this makes parse my Twitter feed completely not viable. So you cannot do at a reasonable price here is fully monitor the situation or do any form of statistical analysis or deep dive. I would instead charge a lot more for posting or DMs, especially DMs to accounts that have not yet replied to you as a bot defense, and be generous with reading tweets. To not do this suggests Musk is not so opposed to bots, but does fear you parsing the content.
Frank, X just revamped their API to finally be useful. So I made a skill that searches X, modeled exactly like the native Claude Code research agent. I've been asking like, find best Claude bot skills last 24 hours. Or what are people saying about Ticker today? github.com/rohanvora/X research skill. The examples I gave are pretty simple, but you can obviously use it to find specific latest best dev practices, interesting uses of new models, summarize narratives about certain tickers, all kinds of stuff. This has made using CC/OpenClaw 20x more useful over last 24 hours so far. Frank, words can't describe how nice it is to finally be tapped into the Twitter fire hose. Previous versions of this stuff were heavily limited by being glorified web scrapers. Now, everyone has access to efficiently query all of Twitter. Insane. Thanks. X developers.
There's no way this was actually a 20x thing, but yes, good Twitter search will enable some very interesting Claude Code and OpenClaw use cases. What about reading your entire Twitter feed, or a wide range of tweets and assembling it into something else? $1 gets you 200 tweets. Having this process my true Twitter feed might cost on the order of tens of dollars a day. That seems expensive, eminently payable, if the processing on it is good enough that you can actually filter large amounts of it out, or for broader searches, reliably filter the good things in. One's hourly is high. Interesting. Many of the bots are human. A problem with identifying many bots is that humans do some very bot-like things.
Derek Guy, on Twitter. The one conspiracy I believe is that this place is full of bots programmed to say insane, incendiary things, and they're funded by foreign organizations who want to divide Americans and destabilize US society.
Nikita Beer, Twitter head of product. When I first started at X, this is one of the things I did a deep dive on because I felt it was critical to the integrity of the experience. I tasked our threat disruption team to investigate a number of trends that seemed artificial. The findings: we could not find meaningful examples of foreign interference in U.S. policy discussions, except people gaming RevShare in developing countries. This is what motivated the release of the country of origin feature and significant changes to the RevShare algorithm. The most deranged and divisive replies generally were from residential IPs in the United States, with no signs of using a VPN. Ultimately, X is a reflection of the internet, and that means you will see the full spectrum of human thought, and sometimes the most outrageous takes will catch fire. Having said all of this, there can still be cases of narratives being boosted, but the origin of the initial post is almost always domestic, and we have hardened our systems in the last 3 months to prevent this.
Ryan Tyndall. So wait, you're saying that people are really that dumb and ridiculous?
Nikita Beer, Twitter head of product. Sadly, yes. Deranged liberal takes, Portland and Berkeley IPs. Deranged right-wing takes, Ohio IPs.
Solst/ice of a start. Blizzard employee once told me anti-botting in WoW was extremely challenging due to the number of real people that acted identically to bots. Every assumption was invalidated, unbelievable number of consecutive hours played, consistently repetitive patterns of movement and clicks, farming patterns that aren't considered fun. Why would anyone do that? Solo, no external engagement, goes on for months. The problem with botting is many humans are bots.
Grape Ape. Moot originally hired me to deal with a bot on /R9K/. Turns out it was a guy with an inoperable brain tumor that reduced him to a husk of a being who could only make the same posts over and over again every day. There are a lot of people out there who need to get an MRI.
It is extra hard in a game like World of Warcraft because of what peak farming performance looks like. The human and the bot are going to look the same. On Twitter, there should still be meaningful differences. The Rise of Slop. When algorithms have a right answer, it's like when a game has a correct strategy or a magic. The gathering format has a clear best deck, and everything collapses. We see this on Twitter with what I call the Twitter slop writing style that clearly wins, and David Perel has a similar problem with YouTube captions. I note that he knows a lot about good writing and wants to write well, and thus his post here is him walking the line between the things that make Twitter slop effective and avoid making the whole thing Twitter slop.
David Perel. The State of the Internet in a Nutshell. For 2.5 years, whenever I published a video on YouTube, I'd come up with a bespoke title/thumbnail that accurately described what the conversation was about. Then, during the summer, my view count fell. Nothing worked until I found a formula. How to write blank well. Always the same text. Throw an adverb in the middle, then share a quote from the interview in the thumbnail. People are 0.5% to 1% more likely to click on that title format, so the channel has exploded in growth. This title format is worse for my viewers and soul-deadening for me, but it's leading to so many more views that I'd be crazy not to follow it, and people are significantly more likely to click on videos with the formulaic title. This isn't just a story about YouTube. So much of the internet works like this now.
Image. David Perel's YouTube channel has about 223,000 subscribers and displays recent interview videos all titled in the same format. How to write, followed by an adverb, and well. Recent examples include how to write strikingly well, cinematically well, consistently well, structurally well, unapologetically well, and absurdly well, with view counts ranging from about 5,000 to more than 200,000.
When I first got paid to write full-time, Tyler Cowen gave me some top-tier advice, that I could be more popular by making my writing stupider, but I shouldn't do that. And indeed, as frustrated as I often am with him, Tyler always lives by that code. He might be trying to advance an agenda, sometimes on multiple levels at once, including via negativa, but he never makes his writing stupider or maximizes for reach. I admit that if I found something that consistently worked and grew my reach as much as the trick Perel found, and it had a similar price to be paid, e.g. titles and thumbnails only, the core content didn't change, that I would do it too, even though my view counts and subscriber base are holding steady or slowly growing. Block or do not block. Basic social media etiquette. If you violate this, it's a huge red flag and black mark.
Rune. One of the most cowardly things you could do is have blocked me, but continually browse my tweets anyway and post screenshots misinterpreting them where I can't respond over many months and years. Just putting that out there.
Ella, it's so dumb when PPL do this. We should have a hall of shame.
If you've blocked someone, then with notably rare exceptions for actually important tweets within the discourse, you need to leave them alone. If they blocked you, a good portion of that should apply even then, although of course that's your call. Similarly, do not hide replies unless you are willing to outright block, and doubly do not hide replies of those you mention or tag, even if you are willing to block. Doing so is, I block you as a third party if I notice levels of unacceptable. Straight retweets are endorsements, period. If you retweet a news item, you are endorsing that the news happened and matters rather than that the news is good. But if you retweet an opinion, that is an endorsement. Quote, tweets are allowed. It is on you to avoid giving a wrong impression out of context when you do so. But also, this is Twitter, so if your tweet gives the wrong impression out of context, then that is also on you. Play better. How to make money on Twitter. My advice is don't. Alternatively, here is one user's advice on earning money on Twitter, playing the game straight. I don't understand his advice to remove bot or inactive followers. Yes, they don't add value, but do they subtract value? As far as we know, there isn't any punishment for having those extra inactive or worthless followers, but perhaps it hurts engagement rates. He spends about half time on Twitter and earns $400 per 2 weeks, which is indeed a lot more than I get paid despite having a lot more followers, but I'm not trying. The other half is that you have to ensure you still get paid at the end. Twitter effectively has a 2-tier post-reward system. First, there's the system that decides who sees the post, then they decide how much to pay you for it, if it does well. Most users care mostly about the first system, but others are there for the money, and they've figured out some tactics that work. Twitter's philosophy is now that they won't mess with your free speech in terms of reach, but they will absolutely decide to not pay for your slop.
Nikita Beer, Twitter head of product. All aggregators had their payouts reduced to 60% this cycle. We will add another 20% deduction in the next cycle. It became abundantly clear, flooding the timeline with 100 stolen reposts and clickbait every day crowded out real creators and hurt new author growth. The next step is to assign a permanent deduction to habitual bait posters who use breaking on every post. Twitter will never infringe on speech or reach, but we will not compensate for manipulation of the program or our users.
They went on to cut this at least a further 20%. I would be completely fine with throttling the related posts and accounts straight up, if I was confident that this was all they were doing, but that is a slippery slope. So I am here for fine. If you want to game the system like this, we can't stop you, but we will absolutely cut your payments. I suggest also giving users the option to see when this is happening, that both guards against the system being used unfairly, since we can check the judgments ourselves, and also lets us notice this and block the offenders. In general, the people who are ruining our collective experience are not hard to identify, nor are the posts involved. The question is about the will to act, and it is about trust. In brief, how it's going over at Blue Sky. Twitter only has approximately 6.5 million paying users because if you don't post and don't know to want TweetDeck, then paying does little. Most posts are by paying users, but most users do not pay. A good idea.
Elon Musk, July 5th. Users who interact with a misleading post that is subsequently corrected by community notes will receive an X-chat message of the CN to correct any misperception.
Elon Musk reaffirmed this on July 8.
This has been an episode of the Don't Worry About the Vase podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, please visit thezv.substack.com to support the author. If you enjoy having AI-narrated episodes, please note this is a listener-supported podcast. To receive new posts and support the cost of creation, consider becoming a subscriber at dwatvpodcast.substack.com. Thanks for listening.
This has been an Ask Who Casts audio conversion. If you would like your own private feed of audio conversions of any blog posts you would like to listen to, you can sign up for Ask Who Casts Pro at app.askwhocasts.com, where you can give any post the multi-voiced podcast treatment into your own podcast feed. Thanks for listening.